Hi, welcome to The Life, where viewers can say, I live fully empowered. My name is Oanh Heiser, and I'll be your host today, and I'll be interviewing Dr. T.J. Dickson on connecting to your best life through financial wellness. Let's get started. So, Dr. T.J. Dickson, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am an author, coach, facilitator, and speaker for a company I started called Taraji LLC. And I chose the name Taraji because in the Swahili language, that word means hope. And this company focuses on hope, health, and healing for our clients. When I work with our clients, I connect to their pain and suffering, I assist them to heal and transform, and I empower them to live their best lives. And I like to look at a holistic approach to wellness. Oftentimes when people talk about wellness, they're really referring to the body, but that's just one component of wellness.
True.
I like to look at the mind, body, spirit, relationships, and finances of my clients, because when you affect any one of those areas, it's a domino effect, and it really shows the complete experience of the human experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. We're very complicated. We're just not one thing, but
Exactly.
it's the overall encompassing. So tell me, why did you choose this line of work?
I chose this line of work because about 13 years ago, I went through what I would call my rock bottom. Life was not turning out like I had hoped or planned. And so I was really desperate, and for a moment I didn't want to live anymore. And when I got through that moment, I realized that I could not stay in that type of pain anymore. I knew my life was going to change, and what I decided is to take an active role rather than being drugged through it, which was really going to be a problem for me. So as I started to seek my wellness, I was blessed with so many healing and wellness practitioners that came across my path to help me to also heal and transform. And when I mean transform, every area of my life, my mind, my body, my spirit, my relationships and finances, it seemed like they were all torn down and then rebuilt. And so as I was going through this process, one of the things that I realized was my initial reason to start was just to survive. But I actually started to thrive, and I started to feel going from desperation, and over time I started to feel joy. And when that happened, I realized, you know, this is bigger than me. What is my purpose in life? I had been working as an accountant, and I've had a very successful career in accounting, 26 years, but I knew I was really good at it, but it wasn't my passion or purpose. And so I asked myself the question, if I could do anything without fail and money was no object, what would I do? And my answer was, I would love to see people live their best lives. And so that started me into my career with wellness. And my first area that I entered was becoming a certified law of attraction life coach. And as I started going through that certification, one of the things that I found was I had been a life coach for many years. It was just unofficial. I called myself the cheerleader back then because I would have clients, co-workers, my students, business owners, they would come and they would talk to me about what their dreams and goals and aspirations were, or what challenges they had, what pain they were going through. And they just really needed someone to talk to, someone they could trust, and someone could ask them questions to help them move forward. And I did that, and I found, even looking at my accounting career, those were my most fulfilling moments. It certainly wasn't creating those balance sheets, but when I would help, not at all. But it was really helping the people that I worked with.
Yeah.
And so that started my career in wellness, and here I am today.
Well, but that background, even though you may feel it wasn't, the right fit at the time, it now you're utilizing it in your coaching. So, because that's what we're speaking about, financial wellness. So it all plays into it, and I love it. Love that you use the struggles to really overcome and really grow through that. And that's really what it's about. I tell people to embrace struggles because look at the awesome stuff that happened to you, and really grow from it instead of seeing it as something that would really, keep you stuck. And I love that you did that. So what is financial wellness? How would you define that?
Well, simply put, financial wellness is our relationship with money. Oftentimes people don't see it that way. They think of money as just an object, but really it's our relationship with money. That means how we make it and how do we feel about how we make our money. Are we happy with how we make it, or are we really sad about it? A lot of people hate going to work every day, but is that your end? Or are you using it as a tool to get to your best life? You're looking at how you spend it and how you give it and how you save it. What does that relationship look like? The other thing is how do you feel about money in general? Do you think it's evil? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's something to fear, or do you see it in lack or in abundance? It's answering those questions about how do you feel about money in general.
Well, that's really good, because I never thought about money as a relationship. So those are really great questions. So tell us, how can financial wellness lead to our best life?
Financial wellness can lead to our best lives because as a component of the overall total wellness, anytime you can positively affect any area of wellness, it's going to have a domino effect over everything else. So you take finances, for instance. That is a constant worry for a lot of people. If you can improve your financial wellness, guess what? Now you've just improved the wellness of your mind, because now your mind is not stressed out worrying about money. If your mind is now freer and you're not so stressed, guess what? Your body's going to improve. Your processes of your body are going to improve. Because if you look at disease and ailments in the body, many times one of if you trace back, stress is one of the leading causes of a lot of diseases and ailments in the body, headaches even, people who grind their teeth, that kind of thing, a lot of it is due to stress. So if you alleviate that stress and now this body's feeling better, guess what? Your spirit's going to start feeling better. Because a lot of times people lose faith when they're really struggling through something. If everything is falling apart, it gets to be very difficult to keep your faith. And if you're able to keep your faith, guess what? Now your relationships are going to be affected. And you're going to go to work a much happier person, because you're working in a career that fulfills you, or maybe you're just using the job that you have. It may not be your favorite job in the world, but it's leading you to your best life because of the money it provides for you to do something else that you enjoy. So it's all a domino effect. And that's how financial wellness can really lead to your best life.
Okay. And then why did you start pursuing financial wellness?
Well, for me, it was a very personal reason. I went through a divorce, and I went from a 2-income household down to a 1. And it was about back to survival. How am I going to survive now? And, I was a divorced mom. I had 3 kids. And I was like, how do I make all of this work? And I knew that I needed to really tighten up. How do I use my money more efficiently, use it more effectively? And I had to really start looking at how I saw money. I wasn't so much expecting that part, because that's where the Thrive came in. I was just looking to make sure I could pay the bills and feed my family. But it was a very personal reason. I had to start digging in and really seeing how I could do better with the amount of money that I had.
Okay. So speaking of that, what revelation have you received pursuing financial wellness?
Oh my gosh. So many revelations. But one of the first revelations that I received, I'm going to back up a bit. When I started pursuing financial wellness, I took a course called Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace. And when I took that course, it was really to show me the mechanics of how to properly use my money. But something Dave said just stuck with me. He talked about money being neutral. Now, prior to that, I actually thought money was evil. I'm just going to be honest. I did. I thought money was evil because there's an often misquoted Bible scripture that money is evil, but it's actually the root of all. The love of money is the root of money. The love of money is the root of all evil. So I had that kind of messed up in my head, and so Dave had talked about that, and he says, no, money is very neutral. It's like a brick. If you take a brick and you go to a storefront and you smash the window open and go in and steal everything, guess what? You just used that brick for a bad purpose. But if you take the brick and you add some other bricks to it and you build an orphanage for children, you've just done something very beautiful with bricks. But the brick itself, it doesn't care. It's just simply a tool. And it's us as humans that use it for good or bad purposes. And he said money is the exact same way. So that was a huge revelation for me, because all my life I had really thought money was evil. The other thing is I also feared money. I feared having too little, and I feared having too much. And what's funny is a lot of people would be like, you feared having too much? But I did, because I was a little girl, and I had a family member that I thought was the richest person in my family. Really loved this family member, and it was an adult. And this adult had several marriages and several divorces and many kids. And I enjoyed playing with the kids. Well, when the divorces would come, the children would disappear, or I wouldn't see them so much. And so, you know, I was a little child, and I wasn't able to really ask questions, because at that time you just didn't ask those questions, because this was adult business. But in my mind, I'm trying to rationalize, because my heart is hurting, because I want to see my family. What happened? You know, this is a nice person, so I'm trying to compare him to all the other adults that I knew. And I said, oh, he makes more money than everyone else. That's got to be it. So when I grow up, I don't want to have too little money, because I want to be able to eat, because I like food. I want to be able to eat, but I don't want too much money, because I really don't want my family to disappear. This was a little child's interpretation of what she saw. And I kept that into adulthood. But as I started to seek financial wellness, I realized that was not the cause. This person just wasn't that great at relationships. And again, it kind of fed my money is evil attitude that I had. And so I realized that wasn't true either. And the final thing that I think that was huge for me as a revelation is that money flows. Money is abundant. We live in an abundant universe. And I read Matthew 6 in the Bible a lot about how God's provision for the lilies of the valley and the birds. And I have never seen a bird look like they're stressed out, like, oh my God, I'm not going to get any more worms. I'm not going to get any more worms.
Exactly.
The birds know that there's going to be enough worms for all of them. And so I started to try to think like a bird and feel like the lilies, that I was going to be not only cared for in my needs, but I was going to be blessed with beautiful abundance in my life, like the lilies of the valley. So it built my faith.
Yeah, I totally agree. He talks about the abundant storehouse, right?
Absolutely.
He doesn't talk about lack. He talks about abundance.
Abundance, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tell me, what impact has financial wellness had on your personal life?
Well, the impact it's had is it has built my faith tremendously. As I talked about, I am able to now not stress so much about money. Honestly, before I started seeking financial wellness, even when I was dealing with, more money before I went through divorce, all that, I thought every time I got paid, it was just a stressful situation for me, because I'm like, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to pay all the bills and get the things that I want? Because I had just this lack mentality, as though, well, I got $12. I don't know if there's going to be a $13th dollar. When I started seeking financial wellness and realized that we are in an abundant universe, I stopped worrying about that sort of thing. I started to believe, you know what, if I need that $13th, $14th, $15th, $10,000, it's going to be provided for me. So that was huge for me on how it offered me faith. And if it wasn't for that faith, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now about working and being in the wellness industry, because, as I said earlier, I had been in the accounting field for 26 years. This year I retired from that career, and I sought my own business in doing wellness full time. Without the faith that I have built surrounding financial wellness, there's no way I would have done that, because I left at the top of my career. I was a chief financial officer. And so it did give me pause for a second that I'm leaving this stable career. I could have stayed, I'm sure, for many years doing that, leaving this stable career, making good money. But I really wanted to pursue what I felt I was being called to. And I truly believe that my business is new, but I believe that it's going to continue to be more and more and more, and the abundance is there too. And so far, so good. It's wonderful. So those were some impacts that it's had. It's even changed how I even make my money. So yes.
Absolutely. It's a lot of the mindset, right?
Absolutely.
When it comes to financial wellness. So, and faith. I love that you mentioned that. It's so true. So how did financial lead to your current career? Can you explain that?
So with my current career, one of the first areas it led to was becoming a facilitator. As I mentioned earlier, I took the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University course. Well, not only did I take that, I became a facilitator for the course. So I have taught that course a number of times. And also from there, I developed my own finance workshops that are one-day workshops. Going to be offering them online as well as live. And so with those workshops, I have been able to give some steps and tips for people who maybe need a shorter version. And so I facilitate finance workshops. On top of that, when I am writing or when I am speaking, I talk about wellness a lot and I talk about healing a lot. And the area that I hit on to is finances. It's not just, again, I take a holistic approach. And in terms of my life coaching, I have coached so many people and it surrounds some aspect of financial wellness, whether it's a business owner that really wants to grow their business, or someone who wants to start a business, or someone who wants to change their careers, or maybe they just want that promotion. I have coached a number of people to really take a look at their finances and no longer fear them, but embrace them and know the power that they have over their money.
Yeah, I remember you saying, tell your money what to do, make your money work for you.
Absolutely.
You know, and I agree, money is a resource, you know?
Exactly.
So it's not the root of evil, like you said, it's a resource.
Right.
How you use it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, can you tell us some steps, if we were a beginner, how to start this financial wellness?
Well, one of the first steps that I would have someone start is they have to want it. That's the first step for anything. Any sort of change or transformation you want in your life, you have to want it. Sometimes people will hear information and like, you know, that sounds really good and I ought to do it. But they don't, in their heart, they really don't want to do it. Because you start stepping into the world of wellness, there is work to do and it gets tough and you have to change your mindset. And as we've talked about before, that's the biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
You know, I can in a
Absolutely.
workshop teach someone and talk to someone about just your general normal things about how to save and give and all those kinds of things.
Right.
But the mind is the very first thing that you really have to change. The other thing I would say is for them to evaluate how they currently see their money. Are you like me where you saw money as evil? Are you like me where you saw the money, that you feared your money for whatever reason? Are you afraid to look at your money because maybe you think you don't have enough, so you're kind of swirling in lack? You know, so you're like, yeah, I don't think I really want to look at my checkbook. I don't really want to look at how I spend my money. Those things are important because another thing I would talk about in a workshop is empowering you, as you said earlier, to tell your money exactly where it's supposed to go. You can't tell your money where it's supposed to go if you won't even look at it.
Right.
And then the final thing I would say for a beginner is to find a workshop or find a, join a course. You know, there's many out there. There's the one-day workshops like I give. There's your Dave Ramsey Financial Peace type of actual classes where they're multi-week. But find something that works for you if you're needing assistance with your financial wellness. And then if it's something more like you just want to be coached because you want to change careers or maybe you want to start a business or something like that, then find a great coach that can help you, that can assist you in that sort of thing. So those would be the three major steps I would say for a beginner to take.
Okay. Can you give us some tips on financial wellness?
Absolutely. So I brought my trusty whiteboard here today, and I have 7 tips for financial wellness. The first tip will be evaluate how you think and feel about money. Again, it's going back to that mindset. How do you feel about it? How do you think about it? That is so important because that is going to be how you treat your money. So do you fear it? Do you think of it in lack? Number 2, understand that money flows. It is abundant. We live in an abundant universe. And what I mean by flow too is that when you go and you spend $1, that money will flow to wherever you spent it to. So if it's in a store and if you pay the store, they're going to pay their workers and their workers are going to pay their rent. That money flows. It's a constant flow. Think of it like a river. And then evaluate your energy regarding how you make or create money. How do you feel about it? Are you coming from a lack standpoint? Is your energy positive toward how you make and create money? If you have a job, do you hate it? And if you do hate it, what's your plan? Or is it just a temporary thing to get you from where you are now to where you want to go? Because there's certainly nothing wrong with having a job that you use as a tool to get the money you need. Maybe you're going to fund a business with it. That's a great way to do it. But evaluate how you make and create your money. If you're a business owner, are you aligned with the business that you're in? I've seen business owners that really don't like what they do. They really want to do something else. So how do you feel about how you're making and creating your money? The next thing is to create a cash flow statement. And if you notice, I did not use the word budget. I like the word cash flow. And the reason why, again, is because it talks about the flow of the money. This is a powerful tool. This is where you tell every dollar, this exactly where you're going, and you tell it where to go. That has given me a sense of peace that I had not had before, because when a holiday comes up or when something unexpected comes up, I already have it in my cash flow statement. I already know how much I'm going to spend on it, and it's no problem. And then these next three, this is really all you can do with money: spend, save, or give. But how you spend, save, or give, that's where the wisdom comes in, and that's where the magic, if you will, comes in.
Right.
Spend wisely. There are people who maybe are a little bit irresponsible with their money. Maybe they take their money and they party it all up, and then they don't have money to pay rent. You have to think about how are you spending money, and spend it wisely. And then on the flip side, there are people who are very cheap. They won't even buy good food for themselves, and they think, oh, I'm saving money. They won't buy that pair of sneakers because they think they cost too much. But spend wisely. You have to invest in yourself, invest in good food, invest in sneakers, so that you're not paying all this money later because you have poor health. So spend wisely. Save smartly. There's a rule of thumb that everyone should save 10%, but that's not necessarily the case. Some people ought to save more. Say you are a student or a college student, maybe you just graduated and you're lucky enough to live at home with your parents. If you have just started your full-time job and you want to get your own place, maybe you want to buy a house, maybe you need to be saving more like 90% of your income, because you do not have to pay for a place to stay. Save while you can, because you're trying to get to a goal of purchasing a home. In the same scenario, maybe those parents that maybe have 3 or 4 kids in college, 10% would be very difficult. So maybe a good goal for them is just 1% until those kids start to graduate and leave the home. So saving smartly really has to do with your own individual situation. But the point is to save and not be, strain yourself. And then finally, give cheerfully. I hear people talk about giving, particularly in the Christian faith. We'll talk about, giving and that sort of thing. But it says in Scripture, God loves a cheerful giver, and it's because there's a blessing to it. If you're giving to just get back, or if you're giving out of obligation, there's a different energy around that. But when you're giving cheerfully and you're letting it flow, when it comes back to you, when the blessing comes back to you, it may come from an unexpected source. It may not even be where you gave it to. But the point is this word here is cheerfully. How are you giving it? And it's all about that energy, again, regarding what you're giving out and behind your money.
Right.
So those are my 7 tips for financial wellness.
Those are great, really great. So tell us, you've been mentioning about the workshop. Tell us a little bit more about what that contains, or what someone could look for in your workshop.
With the financial workshop, again, I would go over these 7 tips, but then I also get into more of the mechanics, and I have 7 steps and an additional 7 tips. With those 7 steps, it's really about how do you really set this cash flow statement up. So I would go over something like that. I would go over setting up an emergency or a baby emergency fund initially, so that you have some money set aside, because we all know life happens, stuff happens, things come up. I would go over saving money for your children to go to college. I would talk about how to save for retirement and looking at investments and things of that nature. I'd also talk about this part here, how you make your money. is there a way that you can start a business on a side or do some self-employment income? Maybe there's something that you love to do. You love to paint mugs or something, but by day you are an engineer. So if you're looking at something like that, how do you start to incorporate that? Because see, that can do something even for your spirit, because now maybe you're not going to make a ton of money off of the cups, and maybe you will, but it starts to feed your spirit, which creates overall wellness, improvement in overall wellness. I will talk about things like that. If you're in a relationship, I will talk about how sometimes opposites attract when it comes down to finances. You may have that person who's more laid back with money and just let it flow, and they're more free spirited. And then you'll have that person that's very rigid. Look, I have it down to the penny. Nope, we're not going to spend. We're only spending $3.22 on a decoration, and if it's $3.23, nope, it's out of budget, you know. So you have that, and how do you make that relationship work? Because actually, it really can, because you have the best of both worlds. And how do you keep it from tearing the relationship apart versus keeping it together? So there's a number of things that I will look at during the workshop. And then people have time to ask me questions, because everybody's situation is a little different than the other.
Exactly.
You know, there may be people who love to use cash, for instance. There's other people that they prefer to use their debit card because they don't feel safe with cash. How do we get around that? We'll talk about, Dave likes to talk about the envelope system, but we'll talk about a modified version of what that may look like for people who wants to really tell every dollar what to do, but they know that maybe it's a struggle for them if they have too much cash on them or too little. So we'll get into those kind of details.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Well, that does it. We're going to wrap up. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much to our sponsors and our crew to make this possible. Without you, we can't do it. If you'd like to get more information about what we spoke about today, check us out on Facebook called The Life. And until next time, remember to live fully empowered. Thank you.